Welcome to Monkey Chatter. Before we get started, we have to say that while we think we are really smart, we definitely are not doctors, and you should not be taking our advice as medical advice. Everything we say on this show is based on personal experiences, and any guests we have on are not on to help diagnose or treat or cure any disease. Please reach out to your doctor if you have specific medical questions. And now that we're done with kind of the legalese of the show, we want to get on with the fun stuff. So carry on. Let's get down to Monkey Chatter.
Hello, and welcome to Monkey Chatter. This is Amy. I'm here with Lara and Michelle, as we are all the time. And yeah, we've been chatting a little bit before this and kind of wish we would have recorded that, but we didn't.
Y'all had a big fly swatter hanging behind her head, and we thought it was funny. And there was appearances by a dog and a cat.
Yeah. And let's just say we all may be in a little bit rare form today, too. So it could be entertaining. So anyway, our topic for today is our favorite podcasts and books. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. So we'll start. You want to start with podcasts first? And who wants to go first?
I'll go since I'm least prepared.
Lara's like,
I want to go and get it over with.
This is not like public speaking.
So I know I am not that prepared, to be quite honest. But also, I have had such a hard time over the years finding podcasts I like. I like episodes of certain podcasts, but when I continue to listen to the podcast, I just get like, I shouldn't even say this because like people are probably saying that about our podcast. Like one of them was good, but the rest sucked. But so I have found that the ones that kind of keep my interest are like the story ones. And honestly, like Serial. I loved Serial. I really enjoyed that. There was one that is my all-time favorite podcast that it's called S Town. S is in Sam.
Oh, that was great.
Yes.
I think that was the first one I ever listened to.
It was so good. And let me say the S does not stand for Sam, but it's called S Town. And if you haven't listened to it, and if you like any kind of like little bit of drama or mystery in a story, it is fantastic. It's such a good story. So that really is my all-time favorite podcast.
I totally forgot about that. It makes me want to go back and listen to that one.
I know. It was so good. It was really, really so good. I can't even explain what it was about because it was just so crazy.
Yeah.
And then there was one they made into a bunch of like TV series about the guy, and I can't think of the name of it, but it was the guy that like duped the lady in California.
Oh yeah,
they got married and they made like a Netflix series out of it.
What was that? I listened to that too. Amy, I think you told me about
that was a really good podcast.
Yeah, was he like a doctor or something?
Yes,
yeah,
he was a doctor. Well, no, he was an anesthesiologist, but he had lost his license, and he told her he was a doctor. And I think he was also an addict, like prescription drugs. And so he had like this medical background that he really used. But yeah, that was really good. I've tried to listen to some yoga. There's a few yoga ones I listen to on occasion, but again, like none of them quite have completely held my interest. Another one I love is Rebecca Campbell. She has one called Returning. She's kind of a spiritual, like life coachy person.
She's lovely. Can we just back up for a second? How do you listen to a yoga podcast? Like, does it tell you just to do yoga, or what does it?
No, so it talks about yoga. So there's one called Let's Talk Yoga, and she's Indian, and her accent can be a little difficult to understand, but it's really like it breaks down like yoga history and the purpose behind some of the asanas and like, you know, where breathwork came from. And it's really, some of it's super, super interesting. And if you're a yoga geek, like I am, that's, you know, but it's not like you do yoga. It's more like you're listening. Okay. I don't think others. I love Radio Lab, which is actually an NPR show, but they have a podcast. And I could listen to Radio Lab all day long. Every story they have is super like interesting, and it's always a little twisty, and the way they edit the show is really, really cool. I'm not sure if there's any. Oh, I like Rich Roll. That was introduced to
Oh,
me by Amy.
yeah.
Although they're really long. Sometimes they're too long for me.
Yeah, they're a good like road trip
Yes.
listen or
Yes.
plane, like
That's
airplane or something.
yeah, that's so true. And then I think the Invisibilia is another one that I really liked. It's also an NPR show, but it's the same vein. It's a little mysterious and different and so yeah, those are my favorite podcasts. I am not as it's harder for me to listen to what I would call nonfiction. Although what I like about Radiolab and Invisibilia and like the TED Talk and all those they are nonfiction.
Yeah.
And they kind of just take real life subjects and make them super interesting. Whereas like some books that are nonfiction, I have a harder time focusing and keeping my attention. So yeah, that's my
Like deep
podcast.
work.
Oh, and I forgot my very favorite podcast of all time.
Is
Monkey Chatter.
Oh,
Monkey Chatter.
Who you hang with matters.
maybe we should do it that way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
Like
a great
what?
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Light
So
bulb.
one monkey
If
chatter
you're
and then
watching
one
YouTube, there's a light bulb. There actually is one over my
Oh
head.
yeah.
monkey chatter. That's how we need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of us,
Yeah.
two of us. Okay.
Monkey
All right.
chatter. Who
Problem
you hang
We'll have
solved.
to try that at the end and see how
Oh,
that works.
yeah. But it's not
Yes.
nearly as fun.
Probably not.
Mm.
We'll have to try it though. That's
Yeah, of course. Monkey chatter has to be. I think that has to be the top of all of our lists.
yes. Except for me because I don't listen to it.
Oh.
I hate
That is not very good marketing for our
I
podcast.
just can't listen to myself. It's terrible. Stresses me out. I'm like, oh yeah, no, clearly I don't want to listen to those.
Okay, so what do you listen to then, Michelle, since it's obviously not monkey chatter?
So I definitely go in spurts, like where I will have like 8 like podcasts that are sort of my regular, and then I'll get sorry for the traffic, I'm outside. I'm outside today. All things are happening. So I'll get in like phases and I'll like listen to them and then I'll be like, oh, I hate all of these. And I will just delete them all and start over. Right. So I would say I really like The Good Life Project. I like that one. I do listen to that, but I get sick of it sometimes and delete it and then reload it. Rich Roll, Amy introduced me to Rich Roll. I listen to him, but not every topic. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, clearly not interested, delete.
Because they are really long on a topic. Like they're really long in general, but if it's a topic you're not interested in,
so done, delete, right? So that's cool because that's life. And God, I went on a real this is a while ago. I listened to a lot of Don't Keep Your Day Job. When she first came out with that, Kathy Heller is her name. And I loved that. That doesn't sound very good, does it? But it was a great podcast. And then she switched it. As she got more followers and famous and started creating a whole thing and does retreats and all of these things, she's moved it over.
Sounds
and
like
she
a good
calls
goal.
she calls it something else now.
Sure.
Let me see.
Light bulb. I don't know.
I'm looking.
A good idea for podcasters to get together and do retreats and stuff later.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
So
it's kinda
now
cool.
it's called
It's a cool concept.
Abundant Ever After with Kathy Heller. So I don't like it as much now as I did when she first started out. I liked it a lot better early on. Sometimes
Please don't tell her we said that.
sometimes she I still will go and look and see if she's got any topics that I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So
What is there a genre that you
no, not
Okay.
really. Well, like I
was a
guess
quick
yeah.
answer.
So and I
No.
listened to The Gathering Pod by Martha Beck. So Martha Beck is just a relatively well-known quote unquote life coach who's been around for a freaking long time. So I've also read, I think, all her books. So we'll talk about that in like the book section. but she started doing this Facebook Live on Sundays quite a few years ago. And it was just this Facebook Live. It went for like half an hour, I think. And she would just get on there and talk about woo woo stuff. And it
Mm.
was just so cool. And I actually used to listen to it with my mom when, we were taking care of her. And so she would sit and listen to that with me on Sundays, which was pretty funny sometimes because some of the topics are like out there. So as time has progressed, she's turned that what used to be that Facebook Live into something called the Gathering Pod, because it was the Gathering Room, I think was the name of the Facebook Live. So I think she still does it as a Facebook Live on like Mondays or something, but now I just listen to the podcast because that's cool. So she's one of my I always am listening to Martha. And then I have so many, so I won't go on and on, but I do want to take a little cuz most of those are sort of coachy, like Brooke Castillo had a good one and she's kind of on the coaching side. Um you know, so there's like that genre, I guess, Lara, if you're, um
Mhm.
and then so I have a confession to make, and I won't get crazy with this, but I'm one of those goofy people that really I love history, and I
Mm.
really love like the history kind of the United States and
Mm.
politics and government and how it's democracy and how it's all supposed to work.
Who
Um,
knew?
so I tend to not, just because of the political climate, get to politically anywhere. But but I love Heather Cox Richardson's Letters to an American, and she started that back, oh my God, 20, was it 20? I don't even remember how long ago it was, but she literally did it as an email. And she was right. I don't even remember the whole origin story, but she was writing it, I want to say, to another family member to try and explain what was going on in our crazy politics at the time. And she's a history professor. So she would tie it back to things that had happened before, right? And I loved that because I'm like, okay, there, people are people, whether it's
The
what
people
is people
driving by your
driving up and down
house.
my house. Really now?
The
Um,
guy driving the truck behind
right?
you. But
Anyway, so she, I'm
it
like, what
wasn't
is
that loud.
happening? I live on a dead end road with
I
four
was
houses.
gonna say, you live not in
It's
a high
crazy.
traffic area, but
No, I am
they're
not.
like, "Hey, Michelle's doing a podcast.
Podcast. Let's drive
Let's
up
drive
and
by
down
and
the
watch."
street. Yeah, it's so great. But yeah, so she fast forward anyway. Now, and they're short. Now she reads her letters, and it's a podcast. So, love her and love that. Simply because it makes sense. It's short. Like I'm just looking at August. It's like 11 minutes, right?
Oh,
And
that's
so
great.
yeah, and she
I
does
like
it every
short.
day pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, I think she takes one day a week off, but every day it's just like a quick little something on something current and then a link to what has sort of gone on before. So
Okay.
I do really like that. That's one of my
Mm.
favorites. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I listened to a few other kind of more politically podcasts, but I'll just leave it at that. I think Letters to an American is something that regardless of where you sit in the spectrum, it's super interesting. And I think people should know more about how our government is supposed to work.
Yeah,
I think,
historically speaking, that would
yeah.
be super interesting,
Oh,
especially
it's
the short versions.
yeah, right? And it's just little bites of, oh, that's kind of cool.
Mhm.
So back in the 1800s, they were, yeah, behaving badly too. They didn't all get along, and yeah, so I love
Uh,
that. So I guess those are kind of some of my favorites.
nice.
Huh.
Good list.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like the the total nerd in the group. Shocker. But all of mine are like either nutrition or some sort of fitness or like mindset stuff or something like that. So my nutrition ones, and you guys have both heard me talk about this one before, but is the Consistency Project by E.C. Sinkowski, and she does like optimize me nutrition, and yeah, I feel like she just takes all the like the BS and the like hoopla and the drama out of nutrition. Like, let's just not be idiots. Like, let's eat fruits and vegetables and, call it good. We don't need to worry about what the superfood of the day is or, all this stuff. So I just find her to be like very practical, not caught up in the nutrition drama, and God knows there's like a whole crap ton of that stuff out there.
Yeah.
So
I feel like nutrition is kind of like politics in a way. It's very divisive.
yeah,
Oh,
yes,
because of you, Amy, I've listened to a few of hers, and
Mhm.
she's another one that's kind of nice because they're relatively short, like
yeah,
not super
they're like
super
half an
long.
hour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those I've gotten better where like I'll like look and see what the episodes are and just listen to oh that's interesting, or instead of
Mhm.
really like trying
Like
to
going
listen
through the
to
list.
every single. Oh my
Yeah.
god, yeah, yeah. But I
Um,
like you're right. I like her.
yeah,
That's
she just kind of, and like, she just cuts through like all the BS, like, and will truly look at studies and be like, okay, like, so some of the things will say like, oh, this increases your chances of death by like 50%. Well, no, not really when you look at like
the real
the
data.
real numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
They looked at 2 penguins and
yeah.
like
One
one of them
died.
died.
Yeah, it was 97. I don't even know how long penguins live, but it was
I don't
yeah.
either. Yeah. Just yeah.
Um, and then the other one on the nutrition side is it's called the Nutrition Science Podcast. It's Dr. Adrian Chavez. And again, I find him like super practical. He doesn't get caught up in the like disease du jour or food du jour or
Mm.
like all of that stuff. So I for me, those are the two main sources of nutrition stuff that I go to, just because they're not like influencers and they don't get paid to say that you should drink coconut water or whatever,
Yeah.
who
What's
knows.
the name of that one?
The Nutrition Science Podcast it's Dr. Adrian Chavez.
Yeah, that sounds
So,
super nerdy.
yeah, thanks. It is, but yeah.
I think something your professor would make you listen to in college.
I told you I was a nerd. And then on the like the fitness or running stuff or whatever, there one of my favorites, and I think I've shared this one a couple times with you guys on different things, but is the Choose Strong podcast. It's Sally McRae. She's an ultra runner. Actually, I just realized I have her hat on tonight, and that like wasn't even on purpose. It was just kind of the hat that was out
Wow.
front. um And she is an ultra runner and she does talk about running, but she also talks about just like life in general. So, and she has a cool book. Um, I think it's called Choose Strong. I don't know. I have it. But her mom, passed away from cancer when she was pretty young. And so she kind of talks through that. I think she's coming out with, a second book, but that book is about like her childhood and growing up. And I think her dad was not super amazing, but her mom really was. And she just talks about like growing up in that sort of household and like what it was like to lose her mom at such a young age and all of that. So and then her and her husband, they have 2 kids. So they talk about a lot like just like family life stuff, like day-to-day stuff. Their daughter just went to college, so like dealing with that. So while she is a runner and there's a lot of running stuff, they also like talk about other stuff too. And she's just one of those like warm, fuzzy people that loves everyone. So it's just like a kind of a feel good podcast too, even if you don't like running. Um and then the other one is Chasing Excellence, which again I know I've told Michelle about, but that's with Ben Bergeron. He's a CrossFit coach up in New England. And It used to be I feel like whole lot more like performance, and now he's gotten. I think as he's gotten older, it's been interesting to watch that like evolve. He's like my age, like mid to upper 40s, something like that. But now he's a bit more into like some of that longevity stuff versus like, the top. I mean, he's coached a lot of the top athletes and the CrossFit Games winners and stuff like that. So, and then the one that I get excited about this. Why am I such a nerd?
Kind of fun. Like podcasts have like, think about, like the before times without podcasts.
Yeah, like what was that? What did we do? Yeah,
I don't know.
no.
And being on the road, like anyway, go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
No,
I
I was gonna say,
love them. Yeah.
so the other one, and this is just like kind of, I don't know, I just put it under the category of like life, I don't want to say mental toughness, but like just going through crap and coming out the other side, basically. And this is one that my running coach had sent to me. She sent one of the episodes, but it's called the Patinaed podcast. It's PATINA''D. And I just have to read the description to this podcast because I thought it was like to the like kind of the overview of what it is. Because I was like, ooh, this is really quite lovely. But it says most people are attracted to antique things, whether it's furniture, vehicles, or music. There's something about age and weathering that draws us in. Many will cop out without buying quote unquote vintage looking items, but wishing they had the authentic originals. The piece with I cannot read. The piece with 100 years of patina that can't be replicated. This also happens in the human experience. There are people who choose to appear wise without the experience to back it up. They offer to themselves the phony version. Others will allow misery to make them better, wiser, and patinaed. This show is to highlight the others.
Oh, cool.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
That is
that's
cool.
super interesting. It's that one makes me want to
I'm gonna have to
listen to
go
that.
check
You
that
don't
out.
want to listen to my nutrition ones, though. You didn't say that about any of the other ones. But
I
yeah,
would
I just
listen
thought
to the
it was.
nutrition ones before I would listen to the running ones, to be honest.
But yeah, especially like the last part. It's like there are people who would choose to appear wise without the experience to back it up, and there are others. Others will allow misery to make them better, wiser, and patinaed. So it's just cool. It's he interviews a lot of people, and they do a really cool intro. Like they mix all kinds of stuff together, like news headlines and stuff like that. Like their intros are really cool. But he just talks to people who have a lot of them have just really kind of been through the ringer and have come out the other side to do some really cool stuff. So
That reminds me a
That's
little
fun.
bit of Wiser Than Me with Julia Louise Dreyfus. Yeah. She
Is
does
that
that
good?
podcast. I've listened to a couple of interviews and I've liked them. She did one with since we're talking about books. Oh, I didn't even put that on my list either. She did one with Isabel Allende, who's an amazing author, and she wrote one of my favorite books of all time, House of the Spirits. And so that interview was really good, really good. I haven't listened to much else. That I think she stopped for a while and then just started maybe her second season. But she talks to people like I'm looking at it. Julie Andrews, Gloria Steinem. I should go listen to that. Sally Field. So like, I know she did. Oh, she did one with Anne Lamott. That was another amazing author, Anne Lamott. If you haven't read Anne Lamott's stuff, you got to read Anne Lamott's stuff. But her interview with her was good. I listened to that. Ina Garten, the chef. Ina Garten. She interviewed her. So she interviews people who are pretty well known, but interesting. Yeah, really interesting. And sort of to that theme, Amy, of the patinaed. Like these are people, and that's what she's after, right? Like women with a certain amount of patina, let's say, and who have something to say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oaks, yeah. So those are those are good too. There's so many. Like you could just spend your day. Can you hear the
Whose
dog
dog? I was going to say,
drinking?
whose dog is drinking?
That would be
Oh,
mine.
is it the dog drinking? I was like, what is
Oh
that
yeah,
noise?
that would be Vinny slurping up some water.
Now I hear what. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was trying to place the sound. I was
Sorry.
like, what is that?
Yeah. I'm
Sorry,
like,
everybody.
I thought
It's
maybe it was chewing on a bone.
whose dog is drinking? But
It'll be mine. Yeah,
It is. I don't know. It might be National Dog Day
it
today,
is.
it is.
Yes.
Oh well, there we go.
so
There
it's
you go.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
my dog
When
is
we're recording
sleeping.
this, of course, when it comes out, it won't be. But
See, but
when we're
Oh,
recording
now
it,
you
yeah,
is.
know
we're
when
Yeah.
recording.
you're
Now you know
recording.
when we're recording. We're recording
Yep.
on National Dog Day.
Oh
We
my
like to
god.
keep ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's good. We gotta have them in the
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
That's great.
Have
I
'em in the
love all
can.
that. Yeah.
So many.
So
So-
gosh, now there's a couple podcasts I want to put on my list now that I'm gonna try, and I'm like you. I need to listen to them in the car. I feel like when
Mm.
I'm going somewhere.
And I think
My
that's why I
complete
listen. Yeah,
concentration.
because I drive so much, right? So it
Yeah.
just, really
And I don't
helps.
drive any like I used to, so
Yeah,
I
I don't
lack
either.
that time to listen.
Yeah.
Which
Oh.
I used to read a lot more books, physical
Mm.
books, but unfortunately, I feel like age, there's two
Mhm.
things going on. One is my eyesight, and even with reading glasses on, it just really strains my eyes to read like printed
Mm.
like the book, or I can't like on an app of some kind. To the point where it makes it kind of unenjoyable. So
Mm.
I started listening to audiobooks, and thank goodness I didn't say books on tape, because every time I say that, my kids freak out.
I didn't even think about that.
I've said it a lot. They're like, "What is a book on tape?" And there is no such thing as tape anymore.
Right? It's
Okay, an
crazy.
audiobook. But I have found some of the audiobooks are almost better because it depends on who is reading them. If you have a good reader, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Like I just finished a book that I never would have picked out, but somebody recommended it to me, and it was voiced by Tom Hanks, and it was
Oh.
so good. And I was like, is the book as good as I think it is, or is it because Tom Hanks read it?
Yeah.
It was called The Dutch House, and it's fresh in my mind because I just read it. I wouldn't say it's like my all-time favorite, but it's just a really good read. It's a great story.
Dutch
But
House? I gotta
The
read that.
Dutch House.
Okay.
Yeah. I've read a lot. I've listened to a lot of great audiobooks, like amazing audiobooks. I think I guess it's my turn to go on books, right? Sorry, did
Yeah.
I just
No,
jump in
Got
Lara,
it.
you just jumped right in there.
Good.
We were
It's
talking
Lara's
about books.
show.
On you now.
So much for the three monkeys.
Books are much more my jam than podcasts.
Go.
There's like, this is my. Oh, no, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
books.
Books.
I'm trying to think of like all-time favorite. I like when it comes to like classic books, like The Great Gatsby was
Mm.
one of the best novels, like books I've ever read. And the other one, as far as like super old classics, is it was East of Eden.
Mm.
And
Vinny's very thirsty.
He is
Very
so
thirsty.
thirsty.
Well, he's been chewing on that giant bone I gave him to distract him. Bill will really appreciate this when he listens to
Yeah.
this podcast. Yeah.
He'll be like, I hear my baby dog back in the background.
Dog and drinking. It is funny, not to get totally sidetracked, but I can totally tell the difference between Archie and Gizzy drinking. Like, even if I can't see them, because Archie's like, and Gizzy's like, lip, 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 lip. Like, they're two totally separate dogs. It cracks me up.
Funny.
Anyway, side note.
Side note.
I
Anyways.
love that, The Great Gatsby, and what was the other one you just said? East of Eden?
East of Eden. And I'll be honest, my friend Judy was the one that told me to read it, and I tried 3 different times. I picked it up, would start, and then I just couldn't get into it. And so I put it down, and she'd say, give it some time, give it some time. And then a little bit, like a few months later, I'd try again, and the second time, no, can't get into it. The third time, I don't know what happened. I got through like the first like section, and I just could not put it down. It was like such a saga. So anyways, yeah, those 2 are my all-time favorite classic books. And then of course there's like the greats, like I grew up reading everything horsey, so Black Stallion was one of my favorites. And then there was the Black
Misty.
Stallion
Yeah.
Returns and the Black Babies and the Black Waves and all that stuff. So there was all the Black Stallion novels, and then there was Black Beauty, which is also a great classic, but such a beautiful book. I mean, I read Wizard of Oz, like the real book,
Yeah,
the
right?
Frank L.
Oh,
Baum book. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, those are some favorites. But I think like
Wow,
my
I did not
latest,
go there at all.
like classics, like kids.
Uh-uh.
Well,
I
I
just
think like I
love.
just was thinking about books and how like I've always like we were
Mhm.
talking recently, and Michelle, you mentioned how books were such an integral part of your life, like just like it's an escape. It's like it's better than the movies in a way because you get
Mm.
to create your own
Yes.
imagery.
Oh, I you know, doing this, like, having to sit down and really think about, I was like, well, first of all, I've read a lot of books because I have some patina, right? So I started reading, like, really young, like, I can remember telling my mom I was sick so I could stay home and finish a book, right? And, like, and I was in what, 4th grade? 4th and 5th grade, and I always thought I would grow up to be an author or a librarian. Like, I, really thought that, I remember when I wrote, like, my first book, um,
Oh,
it was Susie and Golden Boy. It was about a horse, so it
oh
was
my
really
gosh, I
awesome.
love it.
But anyway, like, it was such a great I'm so glad we picked this topic because I never you start thinking back, you're like, "Oh my god, that was a good book. Oh, and that was really good." And, like, just such a I don't know, and yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, Lara, did
No, I
you
love that. I love hearing that because like it brings me back to like the joy of reading, and
Yeah.
I do feel like this is a little off course, but I do feel like the younger generation did not grow up with the same. Although like my kids, I tried to encourage them to read, and my daughter is now a reader. Like she loves reading, but she reads novels like I like novels too. My son wasn't so much a reader until Harry Potter, the whole
Oh, I
Oh.
series.
loved them too. They
Yes,
were
I hated
great.
them.
he
Oh my
read
god.
he read every book
Loved
in the
them.
series. We waited in line for the next one to come out when they were at the bookstore. I mean,
I
I
love her
loved that
stories.
because he
Yeah,
was not a reader
yeah.
and he loved those books. So like
Oh,
that was really super fun.
That's so
Um
funny because I almost brought up Harry Potter a minute ago when you were talking about, like, the quote unquote "books on tape,"
mm.
um, because a friend of mine was, like, obsessed with Harry Potter. She's like, "You just have to like, just read it. Just read 1. Like, just start it." And I was like, "I am not wasting my time reading freaking Harry Potter." And so then, I was like, "Okay, I'll tell you what. I will get the audio version of it, and I will listen." This is when I was driving a whole lot more. I'll get the audio version, and, I will listen to it while I'm driving, and that way I don't feel like I'm, like,
Wasting
wasting
my
my
time.
time because 'cause I'm gonna be driving anyway. Couldn't do it.
you hated it?
I hate it.
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
that's
wild.
like, none of that appeals to me at all. Like, yeah,
It's
I
very
don't
fantasy oriented,
yeah.
and that's not my favorite genre now at all. Like, I'm in a book club, and I was recently forced to read this, like, fantastical story, and they won't mind me saying this if they listen because, I think they know, like, I didn't really care for it, but I did finish it, and I wanted to know what happened at the end, but
Oh, so you finished their book, but not my deep work book?
I know, right? And I still have deep work. It
Yeah,
popped up today on my
like,
library
oh,
thing. And I was like, maybe I should put this in again and listen to it. Maybe I need to be gardening or something while I'm listening.
that's it, right? You need another activity.
Yeah,
I definitely do because that makes me fall asleep, that book, listening to
deep work.
I just conk out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that is a bad thing about audiobooks too. It is easier to fall asleep while you're
Yeah.
reading
Yeah,
listening to them, but
yeah.
lately I've been on this Silas House kick. Everything's by Silas House I have read, I've loved.
You've talked about that. What
Well,
are
so for me, he's a local. He's a Kentuckian. He's the poet
Mm.
laureate of Kentucky.
Ooh.
He's just very, very well loved as a literary figure. I mean, a writer. And being from Kentucky, he's a Kentuckian. So everybody loves him. I had not ever read any of his books until recently. And once I read the first, and again, I'm saying read, I mean listen.
Listen.
I loved them. Like I just had to keep reading them. So I think I've read almost all of them now.
Ooh, fun.
I mean, I do read some nonfiction. Like I finished this gigantic book that my significant other Colin gave me. It was called Autobiography of a Yogi, and it's a very famous yoga book. It was actually written by this yogi, whose name I'm going to probably mispronounce. It's Paramahansa Yogananda. And he was like considered one of the very early gurus, but he talks about his life growing up in India. He was obviously Indian, and growing up with his own guru and how like how he went down that path. And it's a fascinating book. And also, I mean, if it's truthful, there's some amazing stuff that he experienced and saw, and things that you learn about ancient yoga, like when you meditate, like how deep you can get, and like out of body things. It was really, really good. So that was another one. It took me a long time because it's big. And then I guess I also love BKS Iyengar. He's another yogi that's more modern. There's a book that I was gifted called Tree of Life that was just a lovely book just about yoga philosophy. Of course, I have tons of yoga books, but they're more like instructional and, supportive, and there's some really good stuff there. I feel like there was another one that I wanted to talk about. Oh, Breath. We've already discussed that on a whole podcast. That book, I swear, like changed my view about breathing. And the Matthew Walker book was also amazing. The sleep, Why You Sleep. And then there's one called Earthing that I read recently that I was fascinated by. And that, again, like those are kind of like wellness modalities, I guess, earthing and getting all your sleep and breathing right. And those really were fascinating books. Those are books like that I feel like are keepers, like that I want to have in my library, or I want to share and pass along to people. Like that's how I gauge those books. Like, would I give this to somebody? Be like, here, you need to read this in a nice way.
Yeah. Fix yourself.
Fix yourself. No, exactly. Here's something you can do to help you feel better.
Should read this. Just saying.
Yeah. Like one of my guilty pleasures with my daughter is watching like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and there was some like stupid thing on there where one of the guys who's vying for this girl's attention like gives another guy a book and I think you should read this, and it's like about emotional intelligence. It's like a huge dig.
Start here. Yeah.
Start here. Yeah. But yeah, so gosh, like I feel like books are wow. Like there's so many. Like not just even thinking of them, there's so many back there that keep coming up. But yeah. And there's I have a whole bunch on my nightstand that I haven't even really started.
Yeah.
All right, Amy.
Cool.
Tell us some books.
Well, again.
Yeah, since you hated Harry Potter, what genre do you like?
Yeah, not my thing.
What are you reading these days?
So, well, again, I'm gonna be the freaking nerd of the group. So my number one, and we've talked about this book on here, and you guys have heard me talk about it, but is Atomic Habits.
Oh yeah, you've talked about it.
Yeah, that one is definitely like I've read that one multiple times, and yeah, we'll probably read it again at the beginning of this. I feel like it's a good like beginning of the year kind of book, sort of thing, or else end of the last year to like start off the new year on a right foot or something. I don't know, whatever. Another one was The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. It just talks about like basically my words, not his, what a bunch of pansies we become, and like how we can't
I
be
don't want to be uncomfortable in any way.
Yeah. Oh, well, that sounds super interesting, though. It does, because I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that one is a good one. So all of the ones on my list are nonfiction. So,
but Amy, you recommended two of my favorites to me that were fiction. were they by, is it Margaret Wall's? Glass,
Oh, the
glass,
Oh,
glass
Jeanette Walls.
house.
Jeanette
Jeanette
Walls.
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 Glass
Yeah,
Yeah. The
houses.
Glass Castle.
The
that
glass
was
Yeah.
great,
castle.
and there was another one
It was
too
about
by her.
horses, wild
Yeah.
horses.
Are you
Yeah.
thinking Unbroken?
Mm.
About
No,
the World War II?
Oh,
I
that I
heard.
Peter.
read too.
I
Yeah,
heard that
that's
was
Laura
excellent.
Hildebrand.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I read. She's the
The
one who wrote
ch-
Seabiscuit too.
Yeah,
Yes.
she did write Seabiscuit, which is
So
also
Yeah.
a
I know
great
you
book.
read nonfiction. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I said. They're like all of mine
I
are
mean, you read fiction. Weren't those fiction, or were they memoirs?
no, they're
Memoir?
the Glass Castle is a memoir, and then the
That's
like
right.
they were both real
No, I guess
true stories.
They were
Yeah.
those were great.
The
Yeah.
Jeanette Walls, I
really
think, is a journalist, and
Jeanette
she
Walls.
wrote their autobiographical. I guess that's how you say that word. They're great. I read both of hers too.
They were
Yes.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
So those, but
So
not.
what did you grow up reading? Amy, were you a big reader as a kid? Was that a thing, or was it later that you started reading?
So no, I absolutely hated reading when I was in school. And I think mostly because like I felt like what I had to read for school
Wasn't
was
too interesting.
boring. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not a I'm sure you guys are going to find this shocking. I am not like a classic literature kind of girl at all. So like I think I resented it because that stuff sorry if anybody's listening that's like big into like all of the the Scarlet Letter and Moby Dick and I don't even know what all those other ones that we had to read. The Great Gatsby. I'm like, no. So,
Not for
so I
me.
think like because I had to read them for school and I did not like them, I still don't like I love to read now. And I would say probably my early to mid 20s. Like once I got out of college,
You
I
could
feel
read.
like then I started reading, and I'm sure you guys are going to find this shocking too, but I actually have a spreadsheet with like what books I read by year.
Are you kidding me?
No.
No, I find that shocking, even for you. A
So
spreadsheet of what books you've read by year?
yes, but
Love it. I love it. I could do that.
because I would forget what I read.
I know. I forget too. It's actually brilliant, and I always forget. And
Thanks.
they make apps for that too. There's an app
Well,
called Goodreads that does that for you, but I
yeah,
can't keep up with it.
well, and this was before like all of that because this was back,
You've been doing it since there were no audiobooks.
Yeah, and I'm not a big audiobook
Books on
person.
tape.
I zone out too much. I need to
Read the page.
I need to actually read it to be focused. I can't do audiobooks. But yeah, so but if I would say like as far as like fiction stuff, I was definitely on a big Lee Child like I like some of the like the Mitch Rapp stuff, the like
I
Those
don't
are
know
kind of
those.
mystery, right?
Are they
Like
mysteries?
like
Yeah.
and like
our friend Eric used to always have some really good
yes.
airplane reads, right? Like books that are just really good for the plane. Yeah, good. Yeah, dishy.
Guilty
like
pleasure reads, maybe
Yeah.
like for you, that'd be a guilty pleasure, not for
like
some people, but
like people going to hunt people down and like
See a theme.
I know, like just kind of I was gonna
you
try
didn't
to
do your exercise today. I'm coming over.
but yeah, I'll have to see if I can pull my spreadsheet up here.
I love that. I love that you have a spreadsheet.
With
I mean, that is
Amy. That's very
funny.
Amy.
It's very Amy. It's kind of, I'm still a little surprised, but I shouldn't be.
No.
Not at all.
But yeah, like literally, like I had tabs, and then like when I went back, I think when I started to like kind of slide out of it a little bit is when I went back to school for my master's, and I was like, I can't,
Yeah.
I can't do it all. Like I was already sleeping 2 hours a night, so
Oh my gosh.
but yeah, then I kind of like slacked off a little bit on a lot of reading, and now just recently, I actually just started. I went to my first book club meeting last Tuesday, I think. So I think that'll be good. We used to have a book club for like the girls at the barn, but we kind of quit that, and So now I have a new little book club group. So I'm kind
So
of
what
excited
kind of books
about
are they reading?
that. So the last one that they read was called The Women. It was,
Oh, I heard about this book.
yeah, they said it was really good. I did not get a chance to
So
read
it's
it.
fiction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
I've heard great things about that book.
yeah, they said it was really good. And I want to read it. Like it's on the list now. And then the next one is like The Woman on the Lake or something like that. It's
Oh,
based here in Baltimore, I think.
I think I
Oh.
read that.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So but they actually have a whole list now that I'm in the Facebook
In the
group.
club.
In
Yeah.
the
So like,
club.
yeah, in the club. I can see like the whole list of
Right.
stuff.
Book clubs are
Yeah.
cool because I do think you can find books that you normally wouldn't have picked yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So
I was in a
yeah.
book club this past year, and definitely everything we read was not something that I would have picked up. Yeah.
And were there some that you were surprised at how much you liked?
Um,
Or were you like, okay, I hated all of them?
uh, yeah, I'm there. It has to be really bad for me to hate a book. Like, and I'm one of those people somewhere along the way that um, it's taken me quite a few years to be able to put something down and not finish it. Right. Even if
Mhm.
I hated it, I always felt like I had to finish it. Um, now I'm like, life is too short. This book sucks. Not reading anymore.
I
Right?
don't have
Like, it
time to
sucks
waste
for
on this
me,
Yeah.
bad
right?
book.
There are too many good books to read. Like, so I feel a little less guilty, but especially if I had bought the actual book to not finish it just seemed like sacrilegious or something. Um, but I did, yeah, that was a fun experience. Although what happened with our group is that as it went on, people drifted off, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
by the end, there are like 3 of us on there talking, I'm like, "Oh, okay. Where is everybody? Like, I need a little more, like, interaction." But, yeah,
So I
they were
just
interesting.
found, not to interrupt, but I just
Go
found my
ahead, interrupt.
spreadsheet. I found my spreadsheet. It
Oh
goes
my
back to
gosh.
2009.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh, Amy.
gosh.
Mhm.
What year
So
is
like
it?
Jody,
I
I
know,
know.
it's 2024. That's, like, a lot of years.
Yeah, then in 2019 it kind of like tanked off because,
So what were you reading in 2009?
and that's why I was just looking. That's why I was kind of smiling. In 2009, there's a lot of Jodi Picoult books.
I was gonna
Oh,
I need
yeah,
Yeah.
a
she's
bunch of her
good.
stuff.
Oh, and Patricia Cornwell. Have you guys read?
Yeah, she
I
writes
know
some
Yeah.
the
good stuff.
name. I don't know if I ever read her, but yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And Brad Meltzer. I read a bunch of those. Yeah, this makes me want to like read
Those
some
were fiction too. You were
They're
reading
all
non.
some
fiction,
Oh
yeah.
fiction.
yeah, Nicholas
Yeah.
Sparks.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness, the
Um.
Notebook. Didn't he write The Notebook? He wrote
Yeah,
yes.
and then a bunch of Lee Child.
Yeah.
Um.
That's so funny.
Yeah, we. Yep. There's a tab for every year.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. Like, I bet there's so many books I've read that don't remember
Oh,
at all because I don't have a spreadsheet.
I feel like that too.
Damn
It's
it.
crazy.
I should
And
have
that's
done
Yeah.
why
it.
I did it. David Baldacci. I read a bunch of
Oh,
his
yep.
stuff.
Huh.
Yeah, definitely a lot of Lee Child stuff on here. James Patterson.
How fun to have that.
Oh
Such
my
Yeah.
a
god,
good thing to
this
keep
is
track
so
of.
funny now to like look back
I
through.
know. See, we were poking fun at you, and now it's like, dang it, I wish I had done that.
So when
It'd
you're
be
older, you
super,
can't remember.
super good
Yeah.
info to have.
Oh. And then
Yeah,
if you
it's
ever
very, and I
start
even,
reading a book and you go, wait, I think I've read this already.
yes.
Yeah, right? I hate that. Like,
Um,
oh yeah,
and
next.
then I even have a tab of like what I want to read in like categories.
Oh, yeah. Like
There's
like a wish
just for
list.
fun
I can't even
books.
organize my day. Amy's got her freaking books from 2009. Clearly, there's a difference there.
This is
I'm
why
like,
we're good. Like, I'm
yeah.
in the middle of you two for sure.
Like, oh god. Oh,
I
Amy.
totally forgot about that too until
I
you
love it.
said.
Yeah.
So
But
do you have an all-time favorite, Amy? Like one all-time favorite or one or
um,
two
I
or not?
don't know. There's not one. I was just looking through that list. Have you guys read Water for Elephants?
Yes,
Oh,
that
that's
was
a
a
great
good
book.
book.
That's a really
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
one.
I did read
There's a
that.
lot of really good ones on there that I totally forgot about. Um,
Like
I
those
worry
kinds
about
of books, there's so many good ones of
there
like
are.
that style
yeah.
of book. I just read one this past book, like a few book club books ago that was, I don't know, like in that similar genre that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I worry about AI ruining, like, books.
Oh, that's a good point. I
Huh.
never thought of
So,
that.
I
I
was
mean, I
listening to
have, but not in
yeah,
depth.
I was listening to
Sorry.
a
It's not that
podcast
dumb.
and, they
I'm
were
blonde.
talking about that, about
Yeah.
artists and authors and, all these creatives and how do we protect content because literally you can take let's say you have a classic and you just put in the same sort of scenario and it will spit you out a book, right? And you can
Yeah,
publish that,
I heard an NPR, show about this
Transfer.
where they interviewed an artist, and she actually did a test where she had not an artist, a writer, and she had AI create, like, a paragraph in her
Yep,
style, and
yep.
it was
Mm.
remarkably similar. Like, she said, "If you didn't know that I didn't write it, you might not know." And she said, "I don't know how that would hold up for a whole novel, but" I don't remember
It's
who it
pretty
was either.
unnerving,
It
right?
is
Like,
Yeah.
unnerving.
yeah, especially if you love books and you
I
love
know,
to
'cause you
read
want
and yeah, yeah, I find that I just was listening to that just the other day, and I was like, "Oh, wow, that is a whole other" yeah,
Mm.
like, I
yeah.
don't
We need some kind of verification that the author actually wrote it themselves.
yeah,
I don't know. I
Remember
guess I
the
feel
big
like
scandal with, who was the racing writer that Dick Francis? And
yes,
after he passed away, it turned out his wife wrote, like, a lot of his
mm,
books and did not really get credit, and I think his son writes now too, and he's actually pretty talented. I have a book that he wrote. But anyways, I don't know how much she wrote of his, but there was some little scandally stuff that
yeah,
came out afterwards, and
at least the K was a human.
yeah, well,
mhm.
exactly, yeah, but I mean, it's like,
He's a
how do you
human
know for sure? I
who
mean,
wrote the book, yeah. So
do
many
you
ghost
have
writers out there.
oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Do you have like, an all-time favorite?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was trying to think about that, and I really have read a shit ton of books. Sorry. I
An
mean,
S-ton, you
Great. Now
mean?
I'm gonna
unless,
have to check the explicit
sorry,
contact box.
and I really read and especially back because 'cause I'm like you, Lara, it's gotten harder for me to read. I mean, I don't wanna waste any time talking about that, but, um, so I really wanna talk
A
about
whole
the
lot of
book.
hope. I guess I better get used to those books on tape pretty
I know,
quick.
but I don't like them either, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Anyway, so and this is not politically correct anymore, but one of my first books that I remember, like, my mom actually bought me a hard copy that I remember thinking, "Wow, this is so amazing what you can do, like, to put words on paper and create a story." That somebody else can read and like, I think it was my first real, like, "Wow, this is really something," was Gone with the Wind,
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, that's a
right?
saga.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that is on my shelf, hard copy from my mom for Christmas kinda thing, but I also like Lara, Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, all those Charlotte
Mm.
Bronte, but, like, just the idea of I mean, I just when I read something that is well written, like, I get, like, a I don't even know how to explain the feeling, and you're just like, "This is different." Like, this
I
is
get that.
not just somebody, churning out, romance novels, not like there's anything wrong with that, and I haven't read my share of those, but
Yeah,
there's
I think you're the one
something
that introduced me to,
oh god,
50
50
Shades of
Shades of
Grey.
Grey? Oh my god. That ugh, I'm talking about not those because those are over the top, but I'm talking
Oh,
about, like, the historical romance novels that, like, we
Oh,
used to
yeah.
read in, like, ninth grade, hi yeah, anyway.
But I mean,
Um,
that it's like
yeah.
I get that, like, it transports you.
Oh,
It's like you're out of body.
yes.
It's like you're in
Well,
a movie that you
yes.
created with your
Oh,
mind based
I
on what
love
you're
it.
reading.
I
Like,
love
that's
it.
how it feels when you get a
Really
really, really
well
good book.
written anything, just really so a couple other books that just where I was like, "Oh, I really loved this." Sort of on the history side, Doris Kearns Goodwin is another, really well-known historian, and she wrote a book called The Team of Rivals, which was about Lincoln, and having to put together this cabinet and what he went through and trying to create this team of rivals to like make the world sort of function. And that was an incredible book.
Mm.
Huge, giant book. But oh my God, that I read that thing. I was like, wow, this everybody should read this book. And then uh kind of a not well-known book. So everybody knows about Liz Gilbert and Eat, Pray, Love, right? Like
Oh,
that
yeah.
was
Yeah.
however, she wrote other things, and, she wrote this book called The Signature of All Things,
Hmm.
which is about this woman, and I can't remember the period of time, but way back when, who was who studied moss,
Oh,
like
Moss?
MOSS,
Like
moss, like
the green stuff that
green.
grows on
Yeah,
rocks?
this book, honestly, hear it, you're like,
Ross.
"Oh my god, this is gonna be so awful." It was just one of the best books, like, I loved it. I was like, "This
And what
I"
was it called?
The Signature of All Things, and it's by
Huh.
Elizabeth Gilbert. Loved that book. Nothing like Eat, Pray, Love, like, just, I'm like, "This is just such a beautifully written book." Like, this is a really cool story, and,
I'll have
Is
to
it
when
write
I
that
was
down.
fiction
young,
or nonfiction?
it's fiction,
Okay.
but
Sounds
with
really
I
good.
I most like things that are fiction with pieces of
Like,
nonfiction.
could be, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That
like
there's that
Fiction, okay.
overstory book that you told me
yeah,
about, Michelle, is like
oh,
that. It's so
right?
Yeah.
good.
Like, there's pieces and then the only other book that I really stands out to me, I can still see it to this day, it was hardcover, red, and it had like a what do they call them? Like a family has a crest or whatever,
Mm.
but it
Mm.
was a book called Catherine, and it was by Anya Seton, and it was about the mistress of the Duke of something, and it was like, again, like one of the first, like, grown-up books I've read that, like, I kind of was like, "Wow, this is so cool that people can do this." Oh, and the
Mm.
biography of Amelia Earhart too, that was one of my favorites. I mean, I
Oh.
could go on and on, like Rich Man, Poor Man, Roots, The Poisonwood I mean, I was just, like, on a roll. I'm like, "Oh my god, what about this one, and what about that one?" And
I know
yeah,
it's there's so many. I think about the so many amazing books I've read. Like, and when the more you talk about it, the more it comes up. And
right, and you
Yeah.
think about what haven't we read,
I
right? Like,
know
Yeah.
what
that's kind
how
of what
much
I'm thinking.
oh,
Well,
right?
that was kind of my thing when you were talking about AI. I was like, I guess I don't really worry about that because I figure there's enough books out there that I'm not going to run out of the real people writing.
Yeah.
Like,
We can
I
always
don't know.
read the old classics if we run
Yeah,
out if we
I
get
mean, there
into
are
Or
so
AI.
many amazing yeah. Talking about, like, when you were talking about East of Eden, one of the things that I really tried to read and could not get through was I got a whole set of Faulkner. Oh my god,
Mm,
oh,
I tried, really tried, like, because I think
yeah.
Oprah recommended it or something. I'm like, "I cannot. I just
I
cannot."
don't think I've ever read him, but I will
Oh,
say, like, there's a Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea was like that for me. I
right? Some
struggled
of
with
his
that.
stuff,
It's
I'm
not
like,
a long book, but
yeah,
I love The Sun Also Rises. So
yeah,
who knew? Like, it's
right.
just sometimes
And isn't that the cool thing about books though, and authors and, like, that, like, some speak to you and some don't, and, like,
I
what and
know.
you it's hard
And
to
some
define
stick
that
with you. Like,
forever.
have you
Yeah,
ever finished a book and almost been
yeah, sad.
sad?
sad that it's over.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Is there a trilogy? Can I keep reading about these people?"
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah,
That's how
yeah.
some of these books are very feel. The only other book I have to throw out there because it just popped in my head, and again, it's a horse book. I read this when I was a kid, and I remember the book distinctly. I feel like I have it somewhere. It's a hard copy. It's beautifully illustrated. It's called King of the Wind, and it's about like the
Mm,
history of the Arabian breed.
Hmm.
And so there's some historical truth to it, but it's about this stable boy that took care of like one of these like foundation Arabian horses back
mm,
when they were yeah, I don't know. I just got chills thinking
mm.
about that book 'cause it was one of my
Think
all-time
about that,
favorites.
like, that somebody can put words they're just words, right? Like individually, they, the, at, whatever, and somebody can put those together in a way that moves people, like gives you like what?
I love
I just,
Well,
I
okay, so I
still
have
get
to brag a
amazed
little
at
on our Michelle
that.
because
Yeah.
you
Imagine
have
that. People putting words down that
It
make
that
just,
move
people.
you.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
you
you have
just,
that ability
I
yourself.
think we
Like
talked about this on a
yeah,
previous
yeah.
I
podcast.
think
And
we may have.
we're almost an hour, so we really need to wrap this up.
We are.
That was an easy out.
Super cute, but even if we wrap it up on here on the recording, we can still stay on here longer.
I gotta go find my dog. I don't know where he went.
I think he's probably drinking water somewhere.
No, he's not drinking. He's like somewhere. He's probably getting into something he shouldn't really bad. But anyway, I love the written word, obviously. And I think it's, yeah, there's something amazing about it. Amazing. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the perfect ending.
Yeah.
I know.
Are we going to monkey chatter our way out of here?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. Are we going to do it together or do you want to try it separately?
Oh boy. Here we go.
Let's try it
Together?
separately.
Oh, separately. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's going to
So-
start?
So I'll do a monkey chatter. Do you
You're
want
the
to
first
do a
monkey
monkey
chatter?
chatter? And then have Lara do Who You Hang With Matters?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Monkey chatter.
Monkey chatter.
Who you hang with matters.
Ooh, ooh.
Okay, that was too easy.
Okay, that was boring. Yeah, that was way too easy. Okay, let's do the real one now.
Okay. All right.
Ready?
Ready?
All right, ready?
1, 2, 3.
Monkey chatter.
Monkey chatter. Who you hang with matters.
Oh,
Woo,
God.
that was actually probably our best one
That's that.
so far.
Talking about words. But yeah. Okay.
Oh, ciao.
And
Be well.
with
Stay
that,
well.
yeah, who you hang with does matter.